RPG goes like a foot in front of my windshield. I'm like, what the fuck was that? Ambushed by all four sides. We're getting shot at in every direction. Cody's up there and I can see through the window and he's just mowing people down. I mean, I have an M4, one guy's an M14 and one guy has a saw. And all of us just waited and waited and we're like, don't pick it up, man. And then he picked it up and turned it towards us. So then we had to ghost him.
Brian Mineau, man, your story starts in Northern California. You didn't grow up on no like illegal grow, did you?
No, they were a bunch around us, but we didn't grow up on them.
Northern California, man. You went to high school up there?
I did.
And, how was your family life, man? Like, what's your background? Like, good mom, dad, like what?
Yeah, so my come from like kind of a broken home. My mom got divorced when I was young from my biological father, and it was just her and me and my brother and sister until she remarried when I was like probably 9, and then technically got adopted and had my name changed and all that. But it was an interesting life growing up.
Yeah, was your dad in your life growing up?
He was not.
Do you talk to him today, or?
He unalived himself a couple years ago.
Oh, that's not good. I didn't know that part of your story. Northern California, man. So what was you went to high school up there? What was high school like in Northern California?
Small, like farm town, super chill. Not a lot of like opportunities there. Everybody either moved over to Reno and worked in like gaming or like hospitality, or they worked at the prisons. There used to be a Netflix documentary called Prison Town USA, and there was more people incarcerated in the county we grew up in than there were people in the county.
No shit. So how far was Reno away from where you grew up at?
Hour and a half.
Well, that's not far.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah. So, after high school, man, like you went, you play sports in high school?
Yeah,
What'd you do in high school?
football, wrestling, stuff like
Were you
that.
any good or did you suck?
I was a good wrestler. I wasn't big enough for football.
No?
No, man,
Yeah,
I was
that's
like,
all right.
I wrestled 112s my sophomore year. I was tiny.
112.
Yeah,
Well,
I was
bro,
tiny.
you were like a stick, man.
Yeah, I was 6'2" and 112.
I mean, you look like you should be walking around East Dayton if that's the case. Like 6'2", 112.
I was
I
tiny,
think
man.
I've seen you at a couple of my properties, actually.
Yeah.
6'2",
I didn't know what
112.
protein was, man.
Yeah, no big deal. So after high school, man, you jump right into the military, right? From high school? I mean, you were
Yeah.
17 probably when you joined the high school, yeah?
Yep, I joined when I was 17, had to get parental consent from my parents, and then I left like a week before my 18th birthday.
Yeah. Where'd you end up at military-wise?
I went to Fort Benning, Georgia to go to infantry school and airborne school.
Yeah. So join the military, you get through basic and all that good stuff. And what'd you end up doing? Like, what was your assignments? And
So I got stationed after airborne school in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, 101st Airborne Division. I was in 4th Brigade, Currahee, and I got there, and the day I got to my brigade, they do like in processing, and I'd come from airborne school. I was super fast. I could run 2 miles in like 11 minutes.
well, you only weighed 112 pounds.
Exactly.
I mean, I would
so
hope you could run fast.
It was super easy. And the brigade commander was like, "Hey, you want to try out for this Vrista unit?" And I was like, "I don't even know what that means. I'm 18 years old." So long story short, I go out the next morning and do this PT test, and I got the highest score there. So then they put me in this unit, which was cool because it was a high-speed unit, but everybody had just gotten back from Iraq, and I was the youngest private there, and I was the only one that hadn't deployed. So I spent quite a few months being called a cherry every day of my life when I'm like, guys, I got here as soon as I could,
Yeah. So airborne school, were you ever afraid to jump out of a plane?
Not really. You don't really, like. I didn't really think about it, and I didn't know what to expect. So the first time was easy. The second time was a little scarier because then you knew what to expect.
Yeah.
On my 4th jump, I was coming down and I actually hit a truck because they have trucks out on the LZ, and they got guys with blowhorns, the instructors, telling you like which way to slip so you don't like slip out of the LZ into the wood line. And there's even 2 roads by airborne school at Fort Benning. They don't want you to go across them. And I'm so small, I'm pulling on the risers and it's not really doing anything. So I slipped into a truck, my legs drug across of it, and I hit the ground. I get up, I'm covered in dirt. It's like beach sand. They put it on the LZ there. And the airborne instructor looks down at me and he goes, "What the fuck, airborne? You hit my truck." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, like, what do you say to that?" So I scoop up my chute and just run away,
Did you have guys or gals in your units that were like afraid or like locked up or froze up when they were jumping out of a plane?
Oh, 100%. During like tower week is the worst because like that you can see it's only like 35 feet up for the small towers. And as you jump out, people would try to turn and grab the side of that, like the mock aircraft. And the instructors like basically just like kick your hands and like, or kick you in the chest. And then you go down the line like you're doing it.
Yeah. Any crazy like accidents in airborne school? Like, I had a buddy, him and I signed up for the military together. A lot of people don't know this part about my story, but when I was 17, I went to, was ASVAB and all that stuff. And had assignments and all that good stuff. And we were going to ship out together. And then I decided, man, I'm going to stick around. I'm going to get my degree in police science and go to the academy. And really, I was just afraid. I didn't want to leave home.
Right.
But he ended up going, man. And like, he had a couple pretty tragic like accidents in airborne school. A helicopter went down. He lost a bunch of friends,
Oh wow.
in the accident. He actually, I don't know the details of everything that happened to him, but like he's paralyzed down now from the waist, and
Wow.
as part of a part of an accident in the military. Did you guys have anything crazy like that happen in in airborne school or
No,
training or
we
anything?
we got lucky there. I mean, we didn't have anybody in our class. The class right after ours, when I was in holdover waiting to go to Fort Campbell, he broke his back, and obviously I had left before I knew what happened with that. I think the craziest thing for us in airborne school was I went through right at the beginning of the year, so like January and February, and I was at Fort Benning, and I'd just done infantry school there, and it was always warm, and I hated it. And it snowed our second and last jump, which I was like, I'm in Georgia. How is it snowing here? So it was pretty miserable.
Jumping in the man, I don't know if I would. I mean, I like hanging out in the snow every once in a while, but I don't know if I want to jump out of an airplane and
Yeah,
you know
it was
parachute
miserable.
into the snow and freeze my ass off.
Land
You're
on
already at a
frozen
higher altitude,
ground.
like it's already colder. The higher you get up, right? So
Yeah.
first 10,000 feet, it starts. You really start feeling it. So, but you get trained up. You do all that. What was your first like real experience? Like, where'd you get shipped off to after that?
So I went to Fort Campbell, and I was in fourth grade, like I said, and then I got into this LRS unit, long range reconnaissance surveillance, which is basically an infantry company with 2 to 3 support cav troops attached to it. And I trained, man. Like I went to air assault school, I went to rappel master school, I went to anything that they'd send me to, and then I was there for about 9 months before I shipped out to Afghanistan the first time.
Yeah. Now, what year were you in Afghanistan?
I was there 2008, 9, 10, and 11.
Were those 4 separate deployments?
So the way that the Army works, every branch is a little different, but the Army at that time was doing 9 to 15-month deployments, and there was the Global Reaction Force, which basically means one unit in the military is supposed to respond to like the earthquake in Haiti and like the floods down in New Orleans and stuff like that. And so my unit got sent to Afghanistan, and we were supposed to be there for 15 months. Instead, we came back after 13 months, and then in between that break, you're supposed to at least have 12 months back. The earthquake in Haiti happened, and the 82nd Airborne Division went to Haiti to take care of them. And my unit went back to Afghanistan and took their orders. So that's why I was there in 2008, 9, 10, and 11. I spent 3 out of 4 birthdays in a row in Afghanistan.
Oh man, that can't be easy. And I can only imagine, man. There was, man, the stories and the experiences that you had in Afghanistan. I mean, it wasn't pretty there, was it?
Ironically, it wasn't pretty, but like it was a lot like the northern Nevada, California side of where I grew up. It's very hilly and mountainy and like trees and like where I was in Afghanistan. And we were in this place, the Paktika, or the KGB Pass, which like led into Pakistan, and it was in Paktika. And I mean, the elevation went from like 5,000 feet up to like 12,000 feet. So it's just huge mountains that you had to walk around every
Yeah.
single day.
All right. So you're a young dude, man. You're fresh out of high school. I can imagine you probably didn't have a lot of crazy experiences, grow up in Northern California as far as like combat and,
Right.
things like that. You get trained, make the decision to go to the military, get shipped off to Afghanistan. When was there a moment where you're like, oh shit, this is real?
So I remember our first firefight. We're going to this village that we always went to, and we'd been there for like a month. And our the lieutenant that the platoon that we replaced, that my platoon replaced, their lieutenant told our lieutenant, "Hey, stay out of this village. Every time you go there, they're going to attack you. They're going to blow you up. You don't need anything in that area anyway. Just stay away." Well, my lieutenant had come from West Point. Was very. I've had a bunch of lieutenants, some from West Point, some from other places, some really good, some not so good. This one was very eager to like win the war himself, and we were going in this village almost every day. And we'd only been there for like 3 to 4 weeks. We're driving into the village, and we get into a complex ambush. So like I was actually a driver that day. You rotate between like driver, gunner, dismount, and your TC is normally an NCO, a non-commissioned officer that's like, got more experience. So that day I was a driver, unfortunately, which means I wasn't allowed to get out of the vehicle because you got to be able to move them in case they're getting shot at. So we're driving into this village. I'm 18 years old, and an RPG goes like a foot in front of my windshield, which I had never seen an RPG in real life. So I'm like, what the fuck was that? And our TC, Sergeant First Class Hawk at the time, tells us what to do. We're getting, ambushed by all 4 sides. We're getting shot at in every direction. And my buddy Cody's up there, and I can see through the window, and he's just mowing people down. I mean, it was 6, 7 people in a row with a 50 caliber rifle or a 50 caliber machine gun. And I remember being like, what do I do? Because I couldn't get out of the car. I can't shoot my weapon. I'm just like stuck in this Humvee. And then as we're driving back, like the adrenaline wore off, and like I legit started crying. And I didn't cry because I was scared. I was in an armored Humvee, and they're shooting, AKs at us. It was just like the adrenaline of like nobody had ever tried to actually kill. Like I'd never been, no one, tried to kill me before. And these people, I mean, it was like a 20-minute firefight of us like just getting shot at. trying to get out of this village.
Yeah. Was there any casualties or
Not
anything
on our
within your
side
unit?
that day. We didn't lose anybody that day. I think we had like 12 confirmed kills, which was pretty sweet.
All right. So you guys have, this kind of happened, and did things settle down after that, or was it just like from there on, it was just like rocking and rolling, man,
Yeah, I mean,
with
it
combat?
was my platoon was our brigade's QRF. So we moved around to a bunch of different FOBs that whole deployment being sent anywhere that was really bad. So, I mean, we got blown up. Like I had one guy, Rakita, he got blown up 3 times in one day. So we were in that same village a couple weeks later. We're driving out in Humvees, and you have to drive in each other's tire tracks because they put pressure plates in the ground to try to blow you up with like old Russian mines and like rockets and stuff like that. So we're pulling out of this like riverbed, I call it a wadi, and we're pulling out of the wadi, and he didn't stay in the tires, and he was like the third vehicle back. Hits a bomb, blows him up, hits an ID, blows him up. We call in the QRF that's coming to pick us up with like big wreckers and stuff. And they come out and they hook everything up and they put his truck onto the back of like a flatbed. He gets into another vehicle and we start driving back to the base. And that vehicle that he got in wasn't staying in the tracks and hit another pressure plate IED and blew him up. So then they moved him to the second to last vehicle. And as we were going, there was a secondary. A lot of times they'll do 2 different bombs to try to like, the first bomb gets you out of the vehicle and the second bomb kills everybody because most of the time you don't die in the vehicles. And as they were pulling out of the wadi where the second vehicle was, he hit his third IED that day. So like that was pretty much it's my first deployment. In my platoon, there was like 24 guys, and I think 16 of us got Purple Hearts, which you get a Purple Heart for being wounded or injured in combat.
Now, I would imagine this guy has had a news story where he's won the lottery.
Yeah, I wish, man. Unfortunately, it messed his brain up pretty bad from like TBI, and he was only there for like another month, and he was just like we watched the rapid like decline in his cognitive ability. So the military was good, and they sent him back to the States.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of luck, man? 3 times
3 times
in
in
the
one
same
day.
day. That is, I mean, that's
But he lived. Yeah,
that's
you know what I mean?
insane.
Like,
Yeah, and you live to tell about it.
yeah.
You live to tell about it. So, like on a scale like weekly, like were you guys going into combat zones like daily, weekly, monthly? Like how often were you guys in, behind enemy lines, basically?
I mean, we were completely surrounded. The main base that we functioned out of Charlie Company was called FOD Wilderness, and it was called that for a reason. It was one of the most remote bases that we had in Afghanistan. And General Cody came out there. That's actually what pinned on my CIB. He's a 4-star general. General Petraeus came out there. Our company is an episode of 60 Minutes because Laura Logan flew out there because we got attacked so many times, more than any other unit at that point in Afghanistan, like continuously. And what would happen is they would be across the border and just shoot rockets and RPGs and mortars at our base all the time, nonstop.
Why do you
And
think that was? Like, why were you guys targeted more than any other base out that way?
we were the closest to the border, and that KG pass was like the best route. The Russians, when they invaded, came through and paved it, so it was like the smoothest, best route to get into Afghanistan. And then, of course, after the Russians left, the Afghanis dismantled it and like took it apart. And but it still was it was the best designed road to get out of that country. So what would happen is the fighters would go to Pakistan during the winter. They'd go over there in like late October, early November, and just relax and chill. And then they'd come back in like March/April in the spring. And so they had to walk right. I mean, like the KG Pass road touched our base. So like they would drive or walk across the road that touched our base. And of
Makes
course,
sense.
like they want to get their last kills in or attack in because they film everything. So they would be filming our base and they'd shoot at it and attack it as they left. And you're talking tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of fighters. And then in the spring, when they'd come back, they'd do the same thing. They're coming in at night. They'd see lights from our base and they're shooting RPGs at it to like hopefully hit one of us like walking to the bathroom or something.
Sure. Now at that time, like when the Russians were, kind of moving through and things like that, did we have a good relationship with their military? Did you guys deal with them at all?
Yeah, so it's ironic. Like we back then funded most of the resistance to the Afghanis. So then now when we're there, 20, 30 years later, some of them had a very positive outlook towards us and then other ones didn't. So we'd go into villages. Everybody was super nice. They'd be helpful. They'd tell us when the Taliban was there. And then we'd go to other villages like the one I was talking about earlier, and they'd look you right in the face and say like, hey, they're not here. And then the next day we drive out, and like when I got blown up, we were in front of, like, it's called a kalat. It's basically a dirt mansion. It's a bunch of interior structures made out of dirt surrounded by like 20-foot retaining wall dirt. Like, I mean, honestly, they're impenetrable. I've shot one with a 50 caliber rifle before and the bullet bounced off. So we're in front of one of those the day I hit a double stack TC6 mine and an MRAP. And an MRAP's one of our biggest armored vehicles. And it blew it basically to smithereens. And it was in front of the front door of the kalat. So it's like, you're going to tell me, Todd, that if I came to your house in Dayton, dug up your road and put a double stack TC6 mine, no one in your family would notice. So then when we come to the village and we're like, hey, you didn't see them put this bomb in? And they're just straight faced like, no, we don't even know how that got there.
Yeah.
It's like every day you went to your house, you didn't see these dudes putting this bomb in. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's just, come on, man. Like, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
goddamn well you saw them do that.
They weren't tossing a grenade. Like, they
Oh
were
yeah, I
planning.
mean they dug it out
were
and put in these
planning.
giant bombs and just waited. And then again, we'd notice traffic would change in the villages, and we're
Yeah.
like, all right, because everybody knows, but no one's saying anything. And then
Yeah,
there's same villages that would ask for money, man.
You know, I've always wondered, like, because I love documentaries about, especially during that time, right? I've watched all the documentaries with Osama bin Laden and the Afghan war, and I really love military, man. I love government stuff. But I always wonder, like, how much is legit, right? One of the things I always am curious about is like the intelligence that you see in some of these documentaries that they're giving to the bases, they're giving to the operators. Um, did you guys have great intelligence coming in at you, or did you ever feel like, man, we're kind of blinded, we're fighting this thing like in the dark?
It was both. Like sometimes we'd have really good intel and we'd go where something was supposed to be like a cache and it would be there. And other times we'd go and we would get attacked and there'd be nothing there. So it was 100% bad information that was designed to trick us. And that was the issue, was like there's this system that basically takes the fingerprints and the retinas of everybody that we encounter, and we would use it every time we'd stop. So we'd go into a village, we'd pull it out, and we'd scan all their fingerprints and then put in their name when they roughly thought they were born, because they don't track that over there. And then later on, we'd get into a firefight, and then we'd kill somebody, and we'd open up their open up their eyelid and then scan their dead eyeball, and then we'd see that they were 3 villages over, and they'd give us an intel that like they'd never seen any Taliban, and then we'd turn that into our S2, which is our intel, and they'd be like, oh, we weren't even tracking that guy, or like, oh, we were tracking that guy the whole time. We're like, well, why didn't you say something when we bat-hided him the first time,
Right.
like we had that guy and now he blew us up, but you never said anything.
Yeah. I can only imagine that's probably one of the hardest jobs to do, not from a physical standpoint, but to be an intelligence person and you're not even in the area.
Right.
You're back in some office somewhere trying to build and create intelligence and hoping that's reliable. Man, that'd be tough. But so for you've watched the movie with Bradley Cooper?
Like American Cyber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you think? Did you like it or not?
I mean, it was all right. Most of those war movies are all kind of the same, in my opinion. There's some that I think stand out, but overall, it was pretty good.
Were there parts of that movie? Because I know it's Hollywood, but were there parts of that movie that were eerily true and distinct to kind of what your memory was of being over there, or was it all kind of just like blown out of proportion?
No, I mean, there's definitely parts. I mean, we got into a firefight in that same village like 6 months later. We even built what's called a COP, which is like a combat outpost, which is even smaller than a FOB. And the COP only had my platoon on it and then 2 platoons of ANA, which is the Afghani National Army. And we built it a baseball or football throw from that village to like prove a point, So we air assaulted in and then secured the area with our 30 guys. And then we waited for that same group that would normally pick us up to bring us out HESCOs, which is like a big earth barrier. We build this whole big base out there to basically say like, hey, this is our village now, we're not leaving. And then like the next day we go into the village, we get attacked, and me and 2 guys are like covering down this alley shooting at people. And we end up hitting this guy, and kind of like in the movie, his like probably 10 to 12-year-old son comes out, sees his dad on the ground. And then we sit there, me and the other 2 guys, like waiting. I have an M4, one guy's an M14, and one guy has a saw. And all of us just waited and waited, and we're like, don't pick it up, man. And then he picked it up and turned it towards us, so then we had to ghost him.
Man, so there are some similarities. Did you guys have a guy like that, like Bradley Cooper? Like, do you remember a guy where they're like, this is the dude, man, that
Probably
everybody's gunning for?
Probably my buddy Marcus. Like he was actually on that 60 Minutes interview and gets shot in the video, and his triceps and biceps are so big, the dude worked out all the time, that he gets shot and it's a through and through of his tricep, which is a pretty difficult thing to do because most people don't have enough muscle mass on their tricep for a 7.62 round to go through it and come out and not hit anything important.
Right.
So he like gets shot, goes down on the ground. The bad guys are still there shooting at us from a cornfield. And they don't show it all in the video because obviously when we start getting shot at, the reporters get a little nervous and scared. And the camera guys are trying to film, but they're like doing this thing to try to get covered. And in his right arm, he picks up his M4 with one arm while our first sergeant at the time and another guy shoot this dude and kill him. And then he lays down and like gets treated, and that was just like Marcus, everywhere that dude went would just, get shot. And then he was back on patrol 4 weeks later. He didn't even go home.
Really?
He stayed in Afghanistan and just went back on mission.
Man, there's some guys are just built different, man.
Yeah.
And you say it all the time, and we're not all created equal.
No, that dude's
I think that people people want to believe that, that all men and women are created equal. That's just not the truth.
No.
There's a reason why some guys are centers in the NBA and some guys are 5'6". We're not all created equal. Maybe
Right.
we, have the ability to be equal from a mental standpoint and, from a success standpoint and business, but there's just some guys are just different, dude.
Yeah, he was a beast.
And I'm sure you had some of them. So what do you think, like thinking back to your time, overseas, what would you say is like just the craziest story, craziest situation that you witnessed or that you've seen besides a guy, getting blown up 3 times in the same day?
Combat related or not combat related?
Let's start with combat related.
So we had been getting attacked from that village, and we had been going in and out of there nonstop. And me and 3 other dudes from our sniper team snuck out of our base, at like 2 a.m. one day, and we put on little local, shoes that we bought so we wouldn't have our military, imprint. We snuck into this water like well hut that was right next. I mean, it was in the village, so we're in the village in this well hut, and we had seen it a couple times, and it always had chains over it, and that's obviously that like the local kids and people don't go in there and mess with it because it's the one source of them getting water for the village. So we sneak in there and get in there at 2 o'clock in the morning, and there's 2 windows on it, and one faces to the east and one faces to the north. And the other sides, we couldn't really see anything, and it's right next to this orchard that they had. So we sneak in there late at night, me and 2 other guys, and because we know we have that access side you can't see, we set up a claymore back there to like watch our backs. And then every night we're just waiting to get this HVT, this high value target, and hopefully, kill him and then get back out of there. Well, every day we can see him, but we can't get a clear shot. So we're waiting. And that's a lot of it was hurry up and wait. And then on the third day, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. And all your fear is when you're in that situation is that like you're going to go to sleep and your guy on guard might fall asleep, or that they're going to ambush you and it's, 3 against 50 and you're going to get caught and they're going to chop your head off. Like we actually had a guy next to our unit that was in a sister unit right next to us that went out on patrol with 2 Humvees, which is dumb. You should never do that. They hit an IED. The other driver's TC panicked and said, drive back to the base. They left that guy's truck out there. The Taliban showed up. Everybody was dead but one dude. They captured that guy and then filmed chopping his head off. And of course, the report that was put out to everyone else was, well, everybody died, from the IED in the ambush. Well, then why his hands were cuffed behind his back, So it's like, why did they need to tie his hands behind his back if he was dead? And they chopped his head off. So you're aware of that, and you're 19 years old, and you're in this hut at 2 o'clock in the morning, hoping to God you're not going to get your head chopped off. Well, go to sleep the second day, and then I wake up to a massive explosion, which was the claymore going off. And I'm like, here we go. I'm going to get my head chopped off. And of course, all the locals wake up because there's this massive explosion. So we're looking out these windows and we see a ton of people, but no one's shooting at us. So then we're like, well, what do we do? Do we just open fire first? Or with the rules of engagement, do we wait until we're engaged? So then you're making that decision of like, am I going to wait and possibly get my head chopped off because they have massively superior numbers? Or what am I going to do? So then eventually nothing happens for like 10 minutes, which is a long time in that situation. And me and one of the other guys crawl at the back of the hut to see what set off the claymore. And we're finding chunks all over the place. And it was a stray dog had walked through the tripwire and blown itself into smithereens.
Oh,
and then
jeez.
sure enough, we had to exfil after that. And as we were exfilling, then we got attacked. So it's like the dog basically set us up for an ambush because at the most vulnerable time when we were leaving that facility, we then got attacked and had to fight our way back. And as we're fighting our way back, the base that we had built right next to their base is firing mortars at them. Well, one of the guys loads the wrong mortar in, and he loads in an aluminum round. Well, aluminum rounds are timed, so they're set to go off different times. On the back of a mortar, you can set when you want it to explode. And one of their dudes one of our own guys shoots an aluminum round, which lands in the middle of us trying to exfil. So then, and it's way early in the morning. It's like 5 a.m. The sun's not all the way up. So then it lights up us. I mean, imagine if I dropped like a flashlight in the middle of a group of people walking through an open field at night. You can now see all those people. So now we're having to sprint through this open field to not get shot in the back because our own guys accidentally illumined us. Well, then as we get close to the base, my staff sergeant, Sergeant DeLay at the time, tosses me what's called the Law. It's like a bazooka. It's like a small version of an AT-4. And a lot of these things are pretty old, to be honest. So he throws it down to me, and I pull it out to fire it back at these guys to give us extra cover. And there's this little safety you pull, and then you click it, and then it shoots. Well, I did everything you're supposed to do with this bazooka on my shoulder, and nothing happened. So again, I'm 19 years old. My adrenaline's been crazy. I just ran through this open field after I was illuminating, got shot at. I'm trying not to get shot. At that point, I already been injured once and had a Purple Heart. And I look up at Sergeant DeLay on the HESCO who's shooting back at these guys. And I'm like, what do I do? Like, I'm 19, And he's like, try it again. So I pulled the safety of this bazooka for the second time. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And I hit it and it goes click and nothing happens. And I'm like, what the fuck do I do? And he's like, just drop it. So I throw this bazooka on the ground and then run around and we get in the base. And That was a crazy ass night. Like I fired a bazooka twice that I never actually fired. We blew up a dog with a claymore, and I ran through it was probably 300 yards of an open area to get away from being shot while our own guys accidentally illumined us.
And you didn't get your
And I
target.
didn't get shot. And I didn't get our target. Yeah. So like it was a
It
super
was a success.
non-successful mission.
Yeah, it was a successful, non-successful mission, right?
Yeah.
Like you got back safe, but you weren't able to get the target.
Yeah. It
So
was
non-combat related, was there like, and I've seen some movies where guys are doing some crazy stuff, man. Like, cause you get bored, right?
Right.
Like, there's lots of downtime. There's whatever. What are some crazy things that happened when you guys weren't in combat?
So my second deployment, we were in a COP as well, and it was very small, and we got really tight. Like my commander would call me by my first name, which is not normal. And we had to air assault they had to helicopter everything to us because of where we were. So we had to burn our own shit. We literally cut a 55-gallon drum in half, and then you would shit in it all week. Everybody would, and then you'd fill it full of diesel and burn it. We'd burn our clothes because we had no washer and dryers. Like we didn't have showers. You take whore baths where you like take a baby wipe and clean yourself, and that's what you did. Well, we ran out of food like 2 weeks before Christmas, so they were trying to air assault
Just
to us
before Christmas?
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
So we're trying to get food in, but the weather would go black where we were, which meant like helicopters can't fly because of the
Right.
elevation. They already have to have special air intakes, and then they're also not going to risk them going down because then how do you get somebody there? So we're waiting for a resupply, and instead, me and two other guys get a bright idea to go into the local village. And at this time, I'm in E6, so like I kind of can, especially in a small unit like that, like I could kind of get away with doing a lot. So me and two guys go into a village. We buy a goat, we buy a pressure cooker, we buy a bunch of
like
rice,
a live goat.
and we buy a bunch
Not
of
one at like Sam's Club that's hanging in the
Oh
fridge.
no, this thing's alive, and we tie a
How
little
much did you pay for the goat?
$3 American.
All right, go ahead.
So I paid $3 American for a goat, and then we paid $1.50 for a pressure cooker, and then like $1 for the lard and like a 20-pound thing of rice. And we bring it back, and again, keep in mind, like it's like Lord of the Flies. If anybody's ever seen that movie or read that book, it's like that. So like everyone's hungry. There's no rules. Like we used to not shave because nobody could see. Like, you know what I mean? We do whatever we want. Like I'd go on patrol in basketball shorts and my body armor, you know? So we're there. We bring this goat in, and we're like, well, now what do? We don't have a kitchen. So I'm like, well, we've got, around the base, there's razor wire on T-posts. So I'm like, well, fuck that. Let's dig a hole with our Bobcat, and then I'll build a grill out of T-posts, which is galvanized steel that's also painted, with paint. So that's what we do. We never scrape the paint off because we're idiots. And we build this grill about a foot off the ground, and we dug it underneath. Well, there's no trees in Afghanistan. It's one of their biggest imports is lumber. So I'm like, well, how are we going to start this fire and keep it going enough to cook this goat? So I'm like, fuck it. We got a bunch of pallets that they ship the food in on helicopters. It comes wrapped in an A22 cargo bag with like 3 pallets of food, like MREs, and then they drop it. We take the MRE boxes and bring the pallets in because we don't want the locals to have them. So then we break up a bunch of pallets, which is pressure treated wood, and we throw that underneath. And I'm like, well, how are we gonna start the fire? I'm like, well, we got diesel fuel for the vehicles. So we dump diesel fuel all over the top of the grill and this, the galvanized steel to the pressure treated wood and start the fire. Well, at the same time, we have the goat getting ready to do what goats do when we want to eat them. And we end up killing it and skinning it and chopping it up and then putting it on our grill. We're using headlights, literally, and like we're sitting around this stove or this makeshift grill, like 40 to 50 dudes with headlights, little red headlights with the lens turned red, so the locals can't like see us and shoot rockets in at us. And we're just sitting there cooking this thing. And then it finally cooks enough that we thought we could eat it. Everybody starts chopping off pieces, and we're eating this thing. And then within about 6 hours, like I'm not even kidding, probably 20 dudes out of like the 60 of us got some form of stomach virus. And the next day we had to like medevac 2 dudes to the FOB because they had such bad, it wasn't even dysentery, I forgot what it was, but our PA that was with us is like, these guys got to go. And I'm sitting on that burn barrel that we have to burn our shit in. And my buddy Cody has an iPod shuffle with headphones up to his ears, and he's holding the IV bag in the air, and I have an IV in this arm, and I'm sitting on the barrel shitting while my buddy, who is my best friend at the time, holds an IV in the air so I can get fluid because I was that dehydrated from vomiting and shitting. And that was our Christmas dinner. And then like 2 days later, the resupply came and they resupplied everything.
Oh my God.
And like, yeah, it was wild, man.
So let's recap. You get a goat. Maybe not in the best condition anyway to begin with. Maybe it was feeding right. Who knows what that goat was eating?
It's bad.
You bring it back. You use metal that has paint on it. Now we're beyond the period of lead, so you probably were okay there. But
Yeah,
it's
that's
still
fair.
toxic. You have treated wood, which means it has
It's burning chemicals into the meat.
some chemicals there. I don't understand why anybody got sick from it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I mean, we had to keep the fire going because the pressure treated pellets. Yeah, we had to keep
Like
like
diesel's
shuffling
always
diesel
healthy to
onto it.
use for your
That's what
barbecue
we
grill.
figured. Like the meat had a weird color to it, but we were hungry and like I mean there was a couple boxes of MREs left, but like nobody wanted to eat that shit anymore, you know? Like when you eat MREs 2 or 3 times a day, you can't go to the bathroom for like weeks. So you're like, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
I'll risk the goat.
So you look back now, was it worth it?
I mean, I would have done it again. It was a pretty funny
I'm
story.
glad
Like
you did it because we talked about it just now.
yeah, I got some cool photos before everything went real bad. And you know how you know somebody's got your back? If they're willing to hold an IV while you're shitting in a drum.
I mean, that's yeah.
I don't know a lot of guys that would do that for another
that
guy.
screams friendship.
Yeah.
You know? So you guys, I mean, you obviously lost some guys in your unit, like over the course of the 4 to 5 years that you're over there. How many like close friends did you lose from the unit that you were with?
I'd say close friends, probably 5 or 6. And then in our battalion, we lost over 25. And that was for direct action. And then since then, we've lost another about 20 to either suicide or other things like that. And I'd say one of the most traumatizing ones, and like, I get asked all the time if I have PTSD, and you know, I don't think I do. What I think is like I have a lot of survivor's guilt. I was always in the right place at the right time. I got injured multiple times. I've had 4 ACL surgeries. I've had my ulnar nerve reattached twice, and like nothing really bad, in my opinion, ever happened to me. But I was always like the number 2 dude or the guy in the next truck, or like, you know, just close enough to where when one of my friends died, it was like, what the hell? And we had a day where it was supposed to be a chill day. All we were going to do is realign basically our guns on the base. And that means like send a platoon out. They're going to go up on a hill. The base is going to shoot big artillery pieces and mortars. And then we're going to like make sure that they're hitting where they're supposed to hit. And we were training the ANA, the Afghani National Army, and there's a lot of corruption. And to be fair, if you'd asked me this my first deployment, I'd have said, just kill them all. Well, then after my first deployment into my second deployment, I realized that a lot of these people do want their country to be better, or they don't have any other choice. You know, it's like being born in certain areas. And if you don't have someone to educate you out of that area, what do? You know, you fall right back into the same trap. So there was a dude in the ANA whose son had got snatched up by the Taliban, Al Qaeda, and they basically told him, if you don't attack the Americans, we're going to kill your kid. We didn't know that at the time. So this platoon, this company goes out right outside of our base, goes up on this hill that we like. It was our firing range. So when you left the base, you test your weapons. So I mean, I've shot Mark 19s at this hill. I've shot freaking 50 cals at this hill. We've thrown grenades at this hill, and these guys walk out next to the hill to make sure we're hitting where we're supposed to. And they're probably 50 yards from the trucks. 7 dudes, 50 yards from the trucks, and the ANA platoon. And where they're waiting for the rounds to fall, and one of the Afghani guys picks up his gun and turns it and shoots all 6 Americans. And he went left to right, and as he's shooting them, because again, they're just like, well, I mean, these are supposed to be our partners, you know what I mean? Like, if you and I went out, Todd, like, I'm not going to expect you to shoot me, so I'm not going to be like ready to draw down on you, you know? So he shoots the first 5, and as he's getting to the 6th one of our guys rolled on top of the other guy and got shot and died. And the guy who rolled on top of didn't. So only one dude up on the hill survived. And then my buddy Holscher was right next to the hill. So then he had to call down and tell all of everybody that, hey, I need help. Everyone's, and then start like dragging people down the hill. And that's the stuff that I think about is like all of my friends that have passed away and have, and like, why didn't I? Like one of my buddies, he's a very good friend. My middle son has his middle name or has his first name. He had 5 kids, man. And at that time I had no kids.
Yeah.
So like he had no kids and Curtis had 5.
So how have you been able to deal with it now that you're out? I mean, you've been out. How many years you been out now?
I got out in 2017. So I've been out for 7 years.
And I could see how impactful, you know, just that story is to you. And that's just one of many stories that I'm sure that you could think about and talk about that had an emotional impact on you. How do you deal with that daily or weekly or annually, like to keep yourself set? Because let's be honest, the PTSD and survivors' guilt and, you know, the emotional and mental component of, you know, our brave men and women that have served in the military that come home and still have to deal with the traumas that they've seen. It's too much for some people. And we lose, you know, the statistics are staggering when you look at it out there for the amount of people that we lose because of those issues, not because of their injuries in the military or war or anything like that. But because of the PTSD, because of the mental components that come along with it. How have you been able to deal with that hasn't put you in that position where you've, you know, you saw there was a brighter light and still want to be here with us?
Yeah, no. So yeah, to your point, Todd, like obviously most people know the numbers like 22 a day, and that's just what's reported. And like that's a travesty that why we've been sitting here. A veteran has probably killed himself. And I have a very, very supportive home life. My wife and I have been married for 18 years. We have 3 beautiful children. I surround myself with people like you that value my success and value my friendship. And you asked me earlier about movies, and everybody here has seen Saving Private Ryan, and that's a movie that I would say at the very end, there's some parts of that movie I'm like whatever, and then there's other parts like this where at the very end Tom Hanks' character tells Matt Damon's character to earn it, and that always resonated with me after what happened, and a lot of my friends got killed and then have come back and taken their lives, and to me it would be a disservice to take my life when I know like my buddy Chad Trimble or Lutz, those guys would give everything for one more second to see their kids. So like
Yeah.
I don't like it, I don't have the right to take my life or not earn it. So I have to go out and try to be the best person I can be to everybody and to myself, because again, they would give anything to take my spot. Even on a bad day when I have a shitty day. And I had some shitty days, man. I just settled a $735,000 lawsuit that I won, but still like on that day, I'm like, my life fucking sucks. And I'm driving back from Cincinnati to Columbus. And I literally checked myself. I was like, bro, you're alive. Your wife's in the car with you. She's healthy, and your kids are healthy when you get home. So respectfully to myself, man the fuck up.
Yeah. Well, that's powerful, dude, and I appreciate the strong dude that you are, and man, I have so many friends in the military, and I have friends that we've lost because of the issues that we kind of talk about. But at some point, you knew your military career was winding down. You knew you wanted to get out, and you like had a plan, man. Like unlike, and I think that's what's hard for, and maybe that's what helped you. I don't know. You can tell me if it's wrong or not, but there's a lot of guys and gals that get out of the military or come home from war and they get out of out of serving, and they just don't have a plan. They don't have anything that they're
Right.
doing, or they end up working some bullshit job that, at Lowe's or Home Depot or McDonald's that, like they were the one walking through war zones with guns,
Right.
protecting our country. And then you come home and you're working in a Lowe's protecting paint and wood.
Right.
And I can only imagine that takes a serious toll on some people. But your story is a little bit different. Like you had a plan when you were getting out, and when you're in the military, you start working on that plan, right?
Yeah, no. So I love the military. I have positive things to say about it. I think everybody should serve. And one of the things that affords people is the VA loan. And I bought my first house when I was turning 20, and it was kind of a fixer upper, but not crazy because the VA is a little stricter. My wife and I moved into it, and we fixed it up over like 2 or 3 years and sold it and made like 20 grand. Well, at that point, as a young, I think I was a specialist or sergeant. That's like half my annual income after taxes. So I was like, well, there's something to this. So then throughout the next 11 years of my military career, my wife and I would buy homes, fix them up, and then sell them and make money. So then I had to have a bunch of surgeries on my knee from an injury that I hadn't, and when I was in, and one of them on my elbow. And I remember we were flipping 2 houses in northern Nevada, and I was still in the military. So I'd get up at 5, go to work, like work out, be at work. We call it shit, shower, and shave from 7 to 8:30. Show up at the unit at 8:30. Work from 9 to noon. Lunch from noon to 1 to whenever you get released that day, which is normally 5 or 6. I'd be in the Army. Then I'd go home, see Jen and the kids, and then drive to one of these properties and work until midnight or 1 a.m. And that's what I did to like start our investing. And I've started my first 2 companies in 2014, and about 6 months later, and I'd read a bunch of books. I'd already got my bachelor's degree. I'd gone to some seminars, and we sold 2 different homes. And I made, between those 2 homes, I made more money than I made that year as a sergeant first class in the military. And that was in 1 month. So then, I'm like, okay, there is something to this. We could do this. And then somebody really close to me who knew of all the surgeries and knew I wasn't home when my first son was born. I was in Afghanistan. My wife had him completely by herself, and he was in the NICU for weeks. I had to leave right after my second son was born, so I missed like the first 2 months of his life. And I'm meeting somebody, and I'm excited. And Todd, I know you've experienced this. I'm excited to share my success and how like awesome it is. I just made all this money, and these people, there was a family member, and they just looked me in the eyes and were like, "Well, you can't make money doing that." And I'm like, "I've got the checks,
Right.
And these are people that work for the man, they're people that work for like the federal government or the state government. And I love them, but they're still straight to my face. They were like, well, what do you think about doing? I was like, well, I'm thinking about getting out of the military after 11 years. And a lot of people don't know you can retire after 20, and it's a really good retirement. And I'm more than halfway there. And I was like, no, I think I'm going to get out and do this full time because I'm tired of being away from the kids and Jen. And it's way safer. I'm going to go back to the real army is what we called it. Because I was a recruiter at the time, and like I'm going to end up in Korea or end up back in Afghanistan or Iraq or whatever, you know? And I'll never forget, they looked me in the face and were like, well, no, you should stay in. That's safe. You know, you get paid on the 1st and the 15th in the military. And they're like, it's safer. Just like, that's guaranteed. Do that for the next 9 years and then get out and do houses. And I was like, so hold on, you think it's safer for me to stay in the military and go back to probably Afghanistan, where I've already been injured twice and received 2 separate Purple Hearts, and I've had 6 surgeries at this point. That's safer to you than getting out and risking money. And I love these people, but they had a very small mindset of how money works and how wealth works. And yeah, so then honestly, it was that conversation in a parking lot that I was like, I'm done. I'm going to risk it all for my wife and family and me. And I'm not going to go back to probably war and, with my luck, get shot again or killed.
Yeah. So when you guys were flipping, you and Jen were flipping, where were you guys getting the money to fund the flips? Because yes, you can get VA loan, and VA loans are perfect for military guys and gals to use, man. Like I recommend it all the time. But where were you guys getting the money for down payments and
So
gap funds and things?
I'd gone to a couple seminars, like local ones, kind of like they do some here. And there's always older people and like more experienced and seasoned investors like yourself, and like they may already be there that week, you know? So then I went to a couple of those meetings. I had gone to a couple seminars, and I'd already done a ton of research on like hard money lenders. So I'd found a hard money lender that was local, so they understood my market. I'd reached out to them with a couple deals that I thought were deals, and they kind of like directed and shot me straight. And then from that meeting, I'd networked and talked to people. Like you've said before, your network is your net worth. And I basically reached out to one of the older couples that was there and said, hey, here's a deal at 1734 F Street. I can get it for $100,000. I'll personally do the work, and I need to put 40 into it, and I think I can sell it for 220. And they wanted to go see it, and they went and walked it with me. And then they gave me the money, and then I did the deal, and then we made the money.
Yeah. And how much of the profits did you split with them?
Originally, I gave them 50-50.
Yeah. And a lot of us started off like,
Yeah.
a lot of us started off like that, right? And I said, like, well, why would you give 50% of your profit up? You did all the work. They only brought the money. I'm like, well, I didn't. I gave them 50% of something that I wouldn't have had.
Exactly. I was a
Right.
huge risk. Like, I mean, yeah, I'm pretty charming and charismatic, but like it was still a risk. Like I didn't know.
You guys hadn't worked together before. Like
Nope.
they were probably newer in real estate
Yeah.
too. And
They knew I
obviously-
was in the military, so like you're going to do this around your demanding active duty military
Right.
schedule with your 3 kids. Like,
Well, and a lot of people beat me up on social media sometimes, and I don't put a lot of videos out about doing real estate with zero of your own money. I've done a lot, and people that know me know that most of my portfolio was built that way, and a lot of it was creative finance and owner financing and land contracts. But people are like, oh, you can't do that. Like you're just lying, blah, blah, blah. Like that is a perfect example of
Yeah.
how you do real estate with zero of your own money. You have to have money. It just doesn't have to be your money.
100%.
And a lot of people don't understand that, but you found a way to do that. And part of that was networking, right? Like
Yeah.
just having enough faith that you could make this something and going out and making the connections and meeting people. How often do you think that's like a big challenge for people? Like for me, I see that as a huge challenge for people that they just don't have the courage to meet new people.
100%. I was just about to say, like, I think the biggest issue with people getting started in real estate or even any business is that fear of failure, like that fear of getting told no. So like they won't go up and talk to people or ask for their money. They won't. And again, I got told no. It wasn't the first couple I went to, like the first couple I went to was like, no, we're not interested. I was like, okay, I appreciate it. Maybe next time. And then I went right to the next one. And I knew eventually if I didn't give up, I'd get a yes. And that's how I approach most things in life. Like I've had some really, really successful businesses, and I've had some not so successful businesses, but I pride myself on being incredibly resilient. And like I said, like I don't have a right to quit or stop because I have responsibilities and people that are depending on me. So I think people just need to realize, like, get out of the analysis paralysis and just pull the trigger. And what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Like everybody probably watching this, including myself and you, Todd, has had no money before. And here, everyone survived.
I've had less than no money.
That's what I'm
before,
saying.
right?
And everybody
Yeah.
has survived. So the worst case scenario, I've told this to my wife before, the worst case scenario is we have no money again. Okay, well, we've had no money and we survived. So let's do it.
Yeah.
What's the worst thing that's going to happen? We'll be poor. We've been poor before. I remember when we first got married, when I'd finished out the month of all of our bills in the military, we'd have like $25. And we would either go to a movie together, like a matinee, or we would get like McDonald's and play video games.
Sure.
And now, like, I'm taking my kids to a surprise concert this weekend in Baltimore. Just literally, I was like, you know what, let's go. And we decided today, and I bought the tickets.
Man, but that's so right. Like I think that's why guys like us do this, though, right? People think, I can be loud on social media, and I can say whatever I want, and even my wife at times, they look at guys like us because we have similar personalities,
I agree.
and they they think, oh, they're arrogant or they're cocky and they're doing it for them. And I think what they don't realize is like, man, it drives us to know that we're providing a life for our family, and not just them, for my friends that might struggle, for charities and organizations, and kind of similar to what you just said. I remember those times. Like I remember when I couldn't get a card to Lowe's. I remember when I couldn't even get a new car after I totaled mine because the insurance company paid me out and I had cash, but I couldn't even get a loan for like a third of the price because my
Right.
credit was so bad. When I first started, everything I didn't have a checking account, I had a credit
Right.
account. My credit score was like four something. Every property I had was in Lisa's name at that point, and that's the way that we rocked. But just like you just said yesterday, I'm like, I looked at my calendar, I'm like, I have the weekend off,
Right.
and I'm not used to that because I've been rocking baseball,
Right.
coaching travel baseball every weekend for the last several months. I'm like, let's go down to Norris, man. Like, let's go
Yeah.
down to the lake, let's do some fishing, invite a friend, and that's the type of life that we're able to live now, and it doesn't put a strain on our life. But I think some people don't realize that those are the things that tick us a lot.
100%, bro. And I mean, you and I have had this conversation before. Like, it's always amusing to me when people who don't know how we grew up and don't know the amount of work it goes in to do what we do that say things like you're arrogant or it must be easy. And it's just like, guys, like, one, Todd, I've called you before and needed a hand and you've helped me. And I know that there's people that have needed a hand and I've helped. And we're two of the most charitable, kind people. Like, you wouldn't do what you do on social media to try to help people build wealth if you didn't care.
Yeah.
And I've had, even in the last 30 days, I had a conversation with a young lady I met, and she had seen me around and she made the comment about, like, at first I didn't like you. So I literally smiled and I was like, you know what? I told her straight to her face, like, I appreciate you having the intestinal fortitude to say that to my face. And I go, why? She's like, you just have a really big personality and you came off as really arrogant. She's like, but then I listened to you and I actually heard what you were saying. And yeah, you were saying it confidently and maybe a little arrogantly. She's like, but they were actually kind things or things that helped other people. And she's like, and it made me realize like that I needed to check myself and give you an opportunity.
Yeah.
And
for
like
sure.
now, we're doing some work together and it's been a great relationship. But
Yeah.
I know how we come off sometimes, but
Well, shit happens.
it is what it
But you
is.
get out of the military, man. You're rocking real estate. You're doing some flips, and then you got into the mortgage side of the business, right?
Yeah, I got my so as like a backup plan, which I normally don't really do, but as a backup plan before I got out of the military in 2017, I went and got my lending license so that I could do that on the side as I like had time / depending on what the market's doing. So yeah, I mean I'm licensed in like 3 or 4 different states.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And your main business, for those that might not know you, I mean, you've flipped, man, you flipped a ton. I think when I met you, you probably had 30, 40 properties.
Right,
You're living in Reno
right,
at the time, and you were flipping in Columbus, had a couple in Dayton, and we met through a common realtor. But you probably had 30, 35 properties at that time. And I'm like, how in the world is this dude? Because I'm a local guy and I
right,
take chances. I'm not afraid of shit.
right,
I'm like, how's this guy got 30 properties, or how many ever it was at the time? It was
right.
pretty close though.
Yeah, no, it was
And you're flipping in Columbus and Dayton, and you're not even local. I'm like, how is he doing it, man? Like, and what I knew at that time was, even if I never become friends with this guy, even if I don't know anything about him, there's one thing that I do know is that he has balls that are harder than steel. Because to do that and to do remote flipping, and especially on that scale that you're doing it at, that takes a certain type of person, and it takes a certain type of gut,
right,
because you're going to have some really bad shit happen when you're doing it that way. Even if you're flipping local,
yeah,
you're going to have some really bad shit happen. And all the people that are out there selling these fancy courses, and here's how you get rich, and here's how you do this. What they don't do is they don't tell you the raw side of things. They don't tell
right,
you the real things. And I think that's what we try to promote on our channel is, all right, here's what's really going to happen, right? And you have to be ready for that.
right.
And what do you think the hardest challenge was for you when you were doing the remote flip? Because you live here in Ohio now, but you didn't live here at the beginning.
Right.
What was the biggest challenge for you when you were flipping remotely?
So probably to your point, it was like being so far away and with the time change, I had to get up at basically 5 in the morning out on the West Coast because that's already 8 o'clock out here. And most, construction trades start at 6 or 7. So there's always a time issue that I would have. And then working that remotely and have as many projects, there was one point where I think I had 8 to 9 properties here in Dayton, but I had like 35 in Columbus, and I even bought a couple in Cincy. So I'm trying to manage 3 different cities with multiple contractors from 2,200 miles away and a 3-hour time difference. And then unfortunately, what led to us moving out here was COVID happens. So I'm managing a contractor here in Dayton, 1 in Cincy and 4 in Columbus. And people always want to get paid on a Friday, and people want to get paid regardless of the work's done. So what was really hard to manage was like, I was a huge believer in sending me before and after photos so I could verify. And I'd say, okay, send it from the same exact spot so I could really tell the difference. And people would get so creative that it would blow your mind. Like I had guys that would send, like tile guys that would send me pictures of bathrooms that weren't even at my projects, but the same tile, like same white tile or whatever, so that they could get paid, So
Sure.
trying to manage.
Or maybe they painted a stack black and said it was new.
Exactly.
You might know a guy like that.
Yeah, I do know a guy like that. And so like trying to manage that from so far away it honestly became impossible because of contributing factors from COVID. Like I had invested in a couple hundred doors in Chicago and done some other stuff in other states, but I never had that pandemic effect where like, right as we were moving out here, I had one contractor because of COVID that went back to Mexico, another one that actually died because of COVID. I had another one that was embezzling, and I basically found out when I got out here and confronted him. It was just trying to manage the contractors. Construction, in my opinion, is the hardest part of like what you and I do in regards to real estate. Is like, if we don't do it ourselves and manage it ourselves, finding someone you can actually trust to run a project, not cut corners and not lie or steal money.
Sure. Yeah, it's tough, man. And it's tough even locally. Like I don't invest out of state with anything that's like risky, right? Like am I involved in some real estate deals out of state with hundreds of units? Yes, but those were like stable. Those were like A, B class properties and part of, larger partnerships and things, not partnerships, but you know what I'm saying, like syndications. But like locally, man, it's just, it's tough now, even with contractors. And I can only imagine being that far away, but you figure it out. You end up moving up to Columbus, Ohio. And we're going to wrap it up here soon. But I think one of the things that I think super interesting about you, the difference between us, there's a big difference between us. One of them is I've just not been a trusting dude. Like I've never partnered with anybody in my life on anything. And even still today, I don't, with the exception of doors that we've bought together. And that hasn't always been rosy. And, things happen that kind of, pulled us away in our partnership with our other partner. And, we all changed courses, right?
Right.
But we've had success with that. We haven't lost money on it. We've made money on every property we bought.
Everyone.
Could they have went better? Sure. But we've made money and we've done well. And it, has it been frustrating? Yes. But I think when I look at you, you've had multiple partnerships and different like, JV deals and equity deals with people. And that's always scared me and that's always worried me, mainly because I'm a relationship guy and I don't want to fuck relationships up, right?
Right.
But there's a lot of people out there that have to partner because they need the extra money or they, or the remote and they need somebody that's local. It's going to be boots on the ground. The only way to get done is partnerships. But you've had some pretty crazy lawsuits and things like that have came from partnerships. And, you've had some partnerships break up that were bad. You've had successful ones too.
Right.
And I think that's the story of every entrepreneur out there that has had partnerships. Now me, I've only had the one, and it's fine. Has it been like 100% perfect? No. Have we made money? Yeah. Have we lost money? Yeah. Like, it's been fine. But at the end of the day, people that really do a lot of different partnerships, which I'm okay with, I just don't do it myself. The story is always the same. They've had some good, they've had some bad, and they've had some really fucked up partnerships. What do you think you've learned from, all the different partnerships that you've had, over the years?
I would say, like, to your point, I know I'm always the guy that wants to believe, the benefit of the doubt, give somebody a chance, and like, they got good work ethic or want to try to better themselves. I'm like, yeah, let's figure this out. And I would say in partnerships, you need to do a deal or something together where something goes wrong, or like when something goes wrong, see how they handle it, because that's been one of the biggest things is when something doesn't go well, the average person's gut instinct is to quit or give up. And so then at that point, if somebody quits or gives up, one partner, most of the time becomes me, ends up with 100% of the responsibility and duties, which then makes for a bad partnership. So I guess responsibility and work and trust. And then another issue is like people, like when, like there's a lot of work or things get hard, people don't want to do it. People are lazy. Like the average person that I meet is lazy and doesn't want to put in 60 hours a week. You know what I mean? They want to live the nice life and look flashy, but they don't want to go and work 14 hours one day because they have to. They don't want to make all the phone calls and get told no. So I would say with partners, and every time one of them bad happens, which has been probably 3 or 4 times because I do a lot of business, I get really in my feelings with my wife, and I'll be like, I'm done. I'm not having any partners anymore. I'm done trusting people. Like, fuck this. I'm done. I'm not giving people a benefit of the doubt. And then she'll just sit there and wait. And then sure enough, like 10, 20 minutes later, I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to change who I am based off of the behavior of someone else. And to your point, I just finished a very bad partner breakup where, the person's wife was involved and it was millions of dollars. Like I literally wrote a check for 725 grand on top of properties that we had to sell and 96 unit buildings that we had to split equity out of. And it was very gross. I mean, attorney fees, everything. And that was all based off of their relationship bleeding over into our business, bleeding over to work ethic. And people didn't feel that people had the same, economies of scale in regards to their work. So I would just say, be careful going into business with somebody. You need to have a very good relationship. And if something goes bad, you need to have a positive attitude and not quit.
Yeah, partnerships are tough, man. And stories like that, and I've seen that one firsthand, right?
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah, you know the people.
and I mean, I got drug into it a little bit on different fronts
Right.
at the beginning, not like the partnership piece of it, but it's amazing in real estate how small of a community we have, right?
Yeah.
Like even nationally, how small it is, and like the big players, like guys like us that are out there doing it big, we know each other.
Oh yeah.
Like people know each other,
I
and like
remember
it's so
calling you.
easy for things to just bleed into one
Yep.
another, even if you never thought they would exist, right?
Yeah, no, I remember when when certain things happened and someone tried to get you involved in something. I remember calling you and being like, hey, I'm telling them not to do this. This isn't how this work. You have nothing to do with it. And I guess to tie back to the partner question, I will say you need to have someone that's very, very emotionally stable or emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
Because people make emotional decisions. And I'm guilty of that when it comes to helping people. I'm a bleeding heart with like giving somebody another chance. But when it comes to most business decisions, I don't react the way the average person reacts. And they reacted very emotional and then started just slinging stuff at everybody. And unfortunately, you became part of that for a minute. And that's why I called you and said, hey, man, like,
Yeah, your bad partnership almost got me sued.
Yeah.
But luckily, you and I have the same personality, and I'm like, fuck it.
no,
You know,
100%.
like, whatever.
Oh, I remember.
Like, bring it.
Yeah.
Like it is what it is. And but irregardless, I think most things work out for people that do the right thing. Often, and you have a crazy successful development going on up north around a lake.
Yeah.
It's crazy when I look at people like you, right? Like you're in the military, you're in combat, you flip a couple houses with your wife, you're struggling, you start getting into mortgages, you're flipping on a bigger scale, and I've watched your journey, not the very beginning of it, but when I met you, you were just flipping. You weren't really, you had multifamily like in Chicago and things like that, but that wasn't like your main game.
No, not at all.
You were flipping on a big scale, but then I watched you move here. I watched you, continued on your flips, continue, like getting more into like wholesale, and more into multifamily properties and, things like that. But, kind of latest is like now you're building shit and you're developing
Right.
shit. And what that tells me is that you're not satisfied with the place that you're in ever. And if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, I don't think that you can be, right?
Right.
Like you have to have that grind in your belly that says, I want more.
Right.
I want more. And if you don't want more, that's okay. All
Right.
right. Like I'm telling you guys, if you're happy living in a 1,300 square foot ranch, 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, driving a Honda, and no
Right.
offense to anybody driving a Honda, that is okay. I'm telling you, that's okay. If that's life that you want, that's fine. Me, on the other hand, I want to drop, stacks on blackjack and
Right.
drive Lambos and have nice boats and,
Yeah.
because it makes me happy and it makes my family happy. But if you want that type of lifestyle on a different scale, you got to be like you. You have to never be satisfied with the position that you're in. And we tell our athletes every day, our team, whether it's baseball or football or basketball, we are never the same team any 2 days.
Right.
We either get better or we get worse.
Right.
But we have the power to make that decision.
Right.
And I think that's what it is in entrepreneurship. But would you change it?
No, man, I really wouldn't. Like,
Sure, you'd probably change partnerships, but
well, see, and like sometimes I get that way in my head, and then honestly, I think about it, I'm like, I'm a better father, husband, business owner, man because of. I used to say this in the military. I learn more from the bad leaders than the good leaders. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going to do that, and I do the same thing in our business and partnerships. Like, I'm not going to do what that person did. And to your point, like following that principle, I'm building 80 houses off of Buckeye Lake right now for tens of millions of dollars. I started that 96 unit, rehab you're familiar with that's going to have an NOI of $500,000 and like already having hundreds of rentals and like doing everything that we do. So I don't think I'd honestly change any of it.
yeah. even if, and we didn't get in detail, but we've, nothing like personal with us, but we've had some rocky points in our relationship, like falling further away, or sometimes we were closer than what we were. And that's been kind of up and down. But I think a lot of that is because you and I are running 100 miles in our directions, trying to achieve our goals for ourselves and our families. But the one thing that I can say about anything we've done together is we've made money together.
100%.
We bought what? We bought just last year or two. I can't even remember when we bought stuff, but 2 vacant buildings, right? I mean, we bought them for what, 300 grand, 400 grand, whatever it was. Like one was 150 and one was 200. I mean,
yeah, we made multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars on those two projects.
And then we sold both those. Didn't do anything to them except clean them out. And
Right.
I think we sold both of them pretty close to 400,000. I mean, so even if the partnerships don't go exactly how you want them, as long as you choose the right people that are rooted in what they want to do and are transparent and honest all the time,
Have respect.
they can still be successful.
Yeah, I agree.
You don't have to have dinner together every night. You don't have to, talk about all your relationships and your feelings all the time. Use partnerships for what they're worth, and that is helping each other reach your long-term goals. And if you do that, you don't get so emotionally invested. I think, partnerships are great.
No, I agree, man.
I just choose not to do them a whole lot.
Yeah, that's fair.
But well, man, I'm proud of the success you've had. I've got to watch a big chunk of your real estate journey. Even your Lake Tahoe property that we got to stay in, that was gorgeous. I've seen your wife transition into helping you for mortgages, to getting her realtor license, and actually working on my team now and kind of doing her own thing. Your kids getting bigger, so I'm proud of everything that you guys have done. Not only just you, man, but your family as a whole. Your wife's probably the nicest lady in the world that anybody could ever meet. I couldn't imagine if she ever divorces you, fucked up.
Yeah, I'll probably live under a bridge.
Yeah, you fucked up.
That's fair.
I can't even imagine her getting mad. I'm sure she does behind closed doors, but she's one of the sweetest that you'll ever meet, man. But proud of all the success that you've had. If people don't know you and they want to reach out to you, if they want to follow you, if they want to, just reach out in general, what's the best platform for them to do that on?
We've got our I've got my Instagram, TikTok, and a couple other ones that I can give you and we can put on there.
All right. So Brian Mineau, I'm gonna put his links down below. Make sure you click on them. Follow my guy. Very few people are going to be more well-rounded in the real estate space than Brian is. So doesn't have all the time in the world to respond, but can probably get you quickly in a direction if you guys need to go. So if you want to follow him, go to the links below, click there. Make sure you like and subscribe to this page. Stop just watching. Hit the button. Get notified when we're going to have upcoming episodes. My links are all down below. Make sure you guys are reaching out, and make sure you go get a copy of our new books that are out there. So until next time, we'll see you guys.
Hold up. Why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail, then hold your breath and face your death.